it is a sacred time, this. I first heard these words at the UU Church in Austin, Texas. Growing up UU, I learned to think for myself and ask lots of questions. But at 13, I didn't know why these words were so special, why they made me feel at peace, and at the same time made me want to learn more about my spirituality. I think they have only become more poignant as I have become a young adult and a young adult leader. It happened that I attended college in the same town that I had gone to high school in. But living in the dorms and classes and my new friends, I felt I was too busy to attend church on Sunday my freshman year. I was a real college student now, and I thought that meant that there was no more politics like in my high school. It took about 6 months for me to be ready to admit that that just wasn't true. And I started looking for that sense of community I had found in the UU Church. As part of the young adult group, which there is called YARN, the Young Adult Religious Network, I regained that group of like-minded peers and began to feel like I was home again. We spent a lot of time discussing politics and religion, and I got very involved in social justice. Then college was over, and I moved to Chicago, far away from my family, to start a graduate program. Once again, I thought, oh, we're all evolved scientists, we can be friends and work together, this is gonna be good. And 6 months later, I realized I should start looking for a new religious home. Fortuitously, at the same time, I got a random Facebook message from someone I had never met before, saying that she saw I was a UU and there was a UU Young Adult Con the next weekend and I wanted to go. Of course, that didn't work in my schedule, but it really kickstarted my search for a church. I visited all the UU congregations that were within an easy Sunday commute from my apartment, and I decided to start attending UCE in Evanston, in a large part because they had a large active young adult group. I was really glad to have a church where I could attend on Sunday and also have a group of other young adults to discuss topics with. Unfortunately, as I was joining this group, a lot of the young adults that had been the backbone of the group were aging out or moving away. The group was slowly dying, and the 3 people who were running it decided that it was too overwhelming and they couldn't do it themselves. I was very sad to watch the group that I had come to count on disappear. But as a graduate student who was expected to work at least 60 hours a week, I felt like I couldn't step up and run the group by myself. I worried about all the things that young adults say are the reasons that they don't participate in congregations. I'm only here for a short period of time. I'm too busy, I don't have time for this. And Sunday mornings are really early. And for me, they're my only day off the whole week. So what to do? Sometimes it feels like leadership positions in congregations are set up against young adults being leaders. Most positions are multi-year, and once you say yes to one thing, you get sucked into being on every committee. On the other hand, someone looking for a spiritual home often finds a church first. So when you find a church that matches your values and fulfills you spiritually, but you don't see anyone in the membership who looks like you or is like you, it's very difficult to commit to that church. For young adults, it's especially difficult to commit financially. I understand that pledge drives are crucial to the church, but as someone who makes less than minimum wage per hour, it's often difficult to shake off the guilt of not being able to contribute like others, and the fear of being forced to talk to someone about that out loud is horrible. So, as I said, I grew up at UU, and it gave me a great foundation to ask lots of questions and listen to other points of view. This is actually a skill I use every day at my job. It also pushed me to think about hard spirituality questions and questions of social issues at a very young age. I'm a very confident person, although I'm crying, and I'm not afraid to have philosophical discussions with people twice my age. However, if I had $1 for every time someone at a UU church had told me, just wait till you get older and your opinion will change, I would be very rich. If I was a new UU and I didn't feel confident, or if I was a youth who had grown up believing everyone at UU churches was just really nice, this would not only shake my belief in that church, but probably shake my identity as a UU. Obviously, there are always going to be people who think of young adults as less than adult. And honestly, I'm not the same person I was 9 years ago when I became a young adult. But being a young adult is a time of exploring and growing. Don't we want to encourage our young adults to explore and grow as leaders as well? Most congregational leadership is set up to minimize turnover and for the church to be stable. And in some ways, this is great for the church, but it's really discouraging for young adults to step up. Many transient young adults feel that the term of the church leadership position is the amount of time that they'll be in one place. Others struggle with organizational issues. Leadership roles almost always start at a certain time of year. Will you be able to fulfill that term because of the time frame? Recently, I experienced this with a young adult group in my congregation. The group was slowly dying, and I had less than a year, maybe less than 6 months, in Chicago. Could I really step up and lead and organize the group? What would happen when I left? Would it be worth the effort? After some self-reflection, I decided that it was worth it. And with the help of two great adult staff members, we restarted the group. Since its recreation in the fall, it's been very strong, and recently it started growing. Other young adults are stepping up to lead sessions and organize things, and in just a week, 3 of our members are attending the District Young Adult Conference in Springfield. None of this would have been possible without the support of the church staff, believing in us and allowing us to lead ourselves. So why I'm crying? It's because I'm leaving in 2 months. But I know that I'm leaving behind arid soil with people who will take care of it. But I think it's time that we work together to lower some of the barriers for young adult leadership from both sides. Hopefully this will bring us one step closer to those intergenerational congregations that we all crave so much.
My first experience at UU came, like so many changes in life, unexpectedly, and in my junior year of college. One of many late-night conversations with near strangers turned to religion, and she mentioned that she was a Unitarian Universalist. Without thinking, I said, "Me too." I hardly knew what that meant. But I knew there was something I was looking for, something I hadn't gotten from my Protestant upbringing. I knew that UUs were people who lived by principles, who taught love rather than fear, and who valued the questions more than the answers. These things I knew because of the internet. I had no concept of UU as a real place one could go, let alone as a spiritual community. So when she asked if I was going to the Young Adult Con the next weekend, I answered yes. And then followed that by asking what a Young Adult Con was, and following up. Those first cons I went to in college were not like Central Midwest's. There was no YASC, no district-level support of any kind. I later learned that the con community that became my spiritual home existed only because a small group of very dedicated, very overworked young adults willed it to. There wasn't a specific event from that con from which things changed for me. I can't pinpoint one day or even one event or even which day I started to see the world differently. But I still looked at that conference as the moment in my life when things started falling into place. I had been a lifelong Presbyterian, at least in name, and by the end of that weekend, the chalice felt real and the cross felt forced. It seems obvious now, but I had never been part of a community where it was okay to admit that I just wanted to sing, or to sit around a fire, or to wait by candlelight without there being some grand cosmic purpose behind it. A community that understood that there are more important things you can do with the big questions than just try to answer them. A place to spend time with others who were as lost as I was, without necessarily looking to be found. It was the first time in my 20 or so years that I felt completely and absolutely not alone. That I had found a faith that could create that feeling in 2 days from a group of total strangers was the first and still only event in my life that I consider a miracle. It wasn't the faith itself that made my first UU experience so perfect, at least not entirely. Like most of the magic we encounter in this life, It had been organized and orchestrated through the intense and specific efforts of a few core leaders. They planned for weeks to create that experience for new and old UU young adults, and had no compensation commensurate with their work or efforts, nor did they want it. They simply cared because they wanted others to care. And it's because of them that I care now. We've heard a lot of definitions of leadership this weekend, but that's still the one that makes the most sense to me. Caring because you want others to care. When I came to Chicago 3 years ago, I considered myself a UU through and through, and nothing else. Yet I had been to more bi-yearly conferences than I had Sunday morning services. As most adults I meet feel about conferences, I felt about congregations. I knew they existed. I knew some people who'd been to them, but that was all. Sunday morning church was, to me, a concept, not a real thing, not a place, just an idea. That began to change last year when I began to make an effort. As a single 24-year-old who lived a 40-minute bike ride from church, it was hard. I would stand or wander through coffee hours, waiting out the awkwardness, having isolated and brief conversations with wonderful, welcoming people that didn't seem to be building toward anything. Where at UU Commons, friendship was effortless and kindness, out here in the real world, it takes both time and effort. I was infinitely blessed to find a place in my now home congregation, both in young adult programming and in the larger pan-generational community. Still, I know that if I hadn't fallen in love with that first conferences, I never would have invested what it took of myself to become part of the second one, my congregation. The tragedy of that loss would have been indescribable. My story is not unique among those of my generation. As most of us move away after college, we have neither our lifelong friends and family, nor the wisdom that comes with experience to guide us. Old answers once taken for granted no longer make sense, and the questions don't go away. For the first time, we confront the fact that it is we, and not some higher authority, who must decide how we will respond to these questions. And in that sense, being a young adult is a lot like being a UU. The theme of that first conference was sustainability, inside and out. And I pray to all that is possible that we can hold a sustainable living spirituality for all our faith in both kinds of commons, and that we can bridge the gaps created by the realities of the young adult journey. Most everyone I know who came to UU during or after college, which is to say most of the UUs I know, found it by word of mouth. Someone cared enough to talk about their faith, and when the curious seeker went to experience it for themselves, there was a stable and relevant community there to welcome them. I had such a community through YASC and other committed young adult bodies, but as our faith grows, our needs grow as well. Without support from all levels, from word of mouth to the district and the UUA, I fear that other 18 to 25-year-olds might not see the potential benefits of liberal spiritual community, and so not make the sometimes considerable investment of their already scarce resources. I've seen what young adult leadership can do given such support. I don't know where I would be without it. I want that community to go on so that it can find others the way it found me. To grow our faith among the younger generation, who are so easily lost amidst the noise, we need frameworks to welcome and support us through often chaotic lives. We need time and effort. We need passionate leaders like the ones I've met through YASC. We need dedicated staff and volunteers. And most of all, we need people who care simply because they want others to care. More than anything, we need you.
I'm lucky. At DUC, we have an active young adult group. We meet every second Saturday at 6. If you can't remember that, we'll pound it in. Second Saturday at 6. We also have a large number of young adults who come to Sunday services. Now, these two things are related, but not necessarily cause and effect. The young adults who come to Sunday services and the young adults who come to young adult group are very similar, but they're not exactly the same. And you can have one without the other, but it's hard. As with any smaller demographic group in a congregation, young adults tend to kind of clump together. You've seen it, we kind of find each other. We start talking about things maybe you don't know about. Sorry. Maybe we'll talk about lolcats. And so the best way to get a small group of young adults is to start out with a few young adults. And that can be really hard. And so what happened at DUC was we had a very, very small number of young adults. I mean, it was Chris Brown and his wife, Kat Younger, before I showed up. It was just the two of them. But they stuck it out. They stuck out being the youngest people in the room by 20 or 30 years for quite a while. And I can't thank them enough for that. We slowly got more people. I showed up, other people showed up, came and left, a couple people came and they moved to Texas, a couple people came and they moved back to Colorado. But as we reached this sort of critical mass, which was about six young adults that came every single Sunday, who were at coffee hour every single Sunday, went out to brunch with us every single Sunday. Then Rose stepped in. I see her now. Rose came to us and said, we want you to do a young adult group, and we know you've been talking about it, we want you to do something more, and we're going to help you. And so what Rose did was that she got us a specific place and a specific time in the church and made sure that we had it. We had it every single month, every second Saturday at 6. We meet in the Founders Room. And Rose put us in the newsletter, and Rose put us in the order of service, and she put us on the website. And I think that was the most important thing, because young adults look at the websites. And that was really important, because if Rose hadn't put that on the website, the man I live with now would never come to our church. I would have moved back to Minnesota, and it all would have been for naught. I also have to thank the radio. He wouldn't have even come back to you if it wasn't for the radio program. So Rose helped us turn this nebulous idea of us having brunch after second service into a real young adult group that happened every second Saturday at 6. Could we have done this without her? Yeah, we all have the physical ability to go on the website and add something. We would have been able to, muscle our way onto the calendar eventually. But Rose greased the wheels. Rose made it easy. She made our young adult group a priority for our church. And that really, really helped. And that made it so we could focus not on muscling our way onto the calendar, getting stuff on the website, figuring out how to do that. We could focus on the community we were building and what we wanted to do at our meetings and second Saturdays. Sometimes we have really, really, really serious discussions. We had our interim minister, she did something about welcoming the congregation with us. And the week before, we watched Mystery Science Theater 3000. It was awesome. And that's how you build a community. Sometimes you work on the hard stuff, and sometimes you listen to robots be snarky. And that's how it goes. Sometimes you have to be with people who are in a similar place in life's journey to really connect with people. And it's great to have discussions with 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds, 60-year-olds, 70-year-olds, but sometimes you really need to talk to those things in control about the fact that your mom's getting old. And your dad's losing his hair. Talk about that, you're losing your hair. So, I just want to make it clear that we might not be able to stick around for very long, but we're funny and we have interesting things to give to the community. And you shouldn't be afraid to welcome us, even just because we don't have 30-year mortgages, because we're not going to be around forever. We have a lot to offer congregations. And there's more to community than whether we sign the membership book or not. Some people are just too worried about where they're going to be in 3 years to even just sign a piece of paper. And, that's okay. They're still young adults. They're still in your community. You should still welcome them. So next time you see a young adult in your congregation, say hello, Spend coffee hour with them. Maybe you won't understand all of their jokes, and maybe they'll pull out their smartphone and explain what a lolcat is. But you should try saying hello to us, because as I said in our translation, you might help start something powerful by just getting us to stay a little longer. Thank you.
So in every drop of water, there's a story of a life. Like the roots that are aerating our soil, water gives us sustenance to all living things. We are now going to bless one another with that life that may sustain this UU leadership for all ages. As we sing When the Spirit Says Do in a moment, we're going to pair up and walk out of the surface doing a water blessing. So everyone's going to stand, and then the inner circles are going to go first, and the outer circles are going to go next. As you reach the water bowl, please present your partner with the part of your body you feel comfortable having blessed. Maybe it's your forehead, maybe it's your hands. As you bless your partner, give them a little piece of hope, maybe something you've learned so far today, maybe something you want to move forward into our space together. For those who seek God, may your God go with you. For those who embrace life, may life return your affection. And for those who seek a better path, may you find that path and the courage to take it, step